Hi everyone, welcome to week 4. Last week you did so well with the shading because I gave you 2 videos to do. So this week we're just carrying on with the shading for those that completed both parts, and we're going to be looking at shading an apple together. So if you get hold of your pencils and your paper and your rubber, and you can shade along with me. When we're drawing the apple, it's exactly the same as when we're drawing the tin of soup. So we can see here we've got the highlight on the apple. We've got the bright light coming in here, it's hitting off this part of the apple. Around here we've got the core shadow, the darkest point. We've got some reflective light coming back off the surface that the apple's on, and we have the cast shadow. So drawing the apple is exactly like anything else we've sketched so far. First of all, we want to get the shape right. So you're going to use really light lines. Really light sketchy lines, barely touching the paper, so you can keep adjusting it. You can see I'm using a series of lines, and then as I go round the shape I can adjust it further as I go. It might take you a while, you might look at it and think, well, that's not quite right. The thing you must remember is to draw what you see, not what you think you see. So really look at the shape. Is it doing that, or are you just drawing what you think an apple looks like? So you really want to look at what's in front of you. That's half the battle with being a good artist, is learning to observe, learning to look properly. So you really want to look at what's in front of you, not just make it up. Very tempting to make it up sometimes. I'm also guilty of making things up. But that's when things go wrong. So if anything goes wrong, I go back to my drawing, I look at the object I'm just sketching, and then I go, that's why it's gone wrong. Because I wasn't looking and I was making up what I thought was there. This grip again, because I just find it easier, and it's just much easier to shade larger areas, and you can also go round. Now, you might find it easier, remember, to move your piece of paper into a position that's good for you. So if you're left-handed, again, shading like this at a funny angle is not going to be great for you, so you might want to move your paper around. Get it in a place where your wrist is happy to move in that kind of curved way. We're going to gradually build up the layers. So we don't want to go in there too dark straight away, okay? So there's my core shadow. Because the apple is round, I'm keeping my motions with my hand quite curved, okay? So everything we've been learning over the last few weeks is helping here. We learned to draw curves, we've learned the different shading techniques, we've learned to take control of this pencil, ease off on the pressure. This is what you want today. Okay, so you are gradually easing off on that pressure as you come towards your lightest points. I'm using a sort of rounded motion now. Remember, this is just the beginning, so we can adjust things as we go along. Okay, so we want a bit of a light tone all over here. And then we can start darkening things down when we're happy. So we've got a general overall tone, a little bit darker down here at the moment. Okay. We know that that little dip there, because it is a dip, there's going to be shadow in there. Okay, so we want to get some shadow into that dip, but we don't just want it to sit there like that. Okay, so we want to gradually bring it out of the dip, so it needs to be darker, gradually getting lighter. I'm going to switch to this grip now so that I've got a little bit more control over my pencil. I can darken that down. And we've got a nice rim of the apple here. So I'm gradually lightening it as I come away from the dip. But again, still using curves here because my apple is curved. So I'm going to go back down here now. I like to move all over my drawing all the time. So I work on one piece and then I go, oh, I'm just going to increase the tone on that and push down a little bit harder now. And the drawing starts to come to life. Now I'm switching to this grip so that I can really push a little bit harder. Down here, you can see I'm using cross-hatching method now. You don't have to use the cross-hatching method. You don't have to use the method I've just been using. You can just use whichever method you find easier, really. So I'm cross-hatching, kind of scribbling at the same time. I just use whatever I need to, really, at the time to achieve the results I need. Getting a lot darker now, that's good. So I can build up my mid-tones, I can get them a little bit darker now. So you can see, because I put such a light outline on, it's still kind of there. Might leave it there for the minute, or might start to rub it a little bit further down. So I can just start to get rid of it completely. Or I can use my background shading, as we did in the last drawing, to get rid of that outline. So I'm using the shading as my outline. So I'm just going to add a little shadow under here, and then as it goes into the hole it obviously gets really dark. But I've got quite a lot of light on the end there because that's where my light came in. As it disappears in there, I'm going to now just make that shadow a little bit darker. Coming together now. So I'm going to go back down to the bottom of this drawing. I'm going to start to get in my cast shadow. So really nice and heavy with the pencil now. I'm really pushing quite hard because it is the darkest area of my drawing. You see how my marks are really close together? If I shaded like this, all the lines are quite far apart and it doesn't look too realistic, so you really want to try and keep those lines quite close together. And as you ease off on the pressure, do it really gradually because you end up with stripes, and that doesn't look so good either. So remember, we were talking about tonal values last week? You want to get lots of tonal values in there. Okay, So we've got our cast shadow in. I might actually put the table in. Got the apple sitting on again. Now another thing we didn't discuss last time was actually using rubber. So you can, as long as your rubber is clean, you can use a rubber to take pencil away and create really, really, really light areas of highlight. So particularly if you've overdone it, on the shadows, you can take it away. So you can put in maybe, if I rub it lightly, I can put in a little bit of reflective light down there, which I can then blend into again. But you can take stuff away. So I use the rubber quite a lot. It's quite a nice way of sketching actually. Now I'm going to go for it with this cool shadow a bit more now. I've got to keep it going round that apple. Now you can see there's a really big difference between that light and dark, so I need to use another tonal value. So I need to create another tonal value that's in between the two, so it gradually gets lighter. Now, I could go on and on and on with this drawing, but I think I'm going to stop fairly soon because you're getting the idea, and I'd like to see what you can go and do as well. So remember all the things you've learnt so far. Remember, we don't want any outlines. We don't want any heavy outlines. Get rid of those outlines. Remember, if you have accidentally put in a heavy outline, you can use the background. So imagine I'm just going to ruin my drawing now, sorry. I know you don't like it when I do this. Imagine if I'd put that heavy outline in by mistake, okay? And I couldn't rub it out. What I would do is I would then adjust my background to turn a mistake into something better. Okay, so we must never freak out when we're drawing. Okay, if we make a mistake, change it. Be creative, that's what we do when we're artists. Be creative, do something interesting in that background, okay? You could use cross-hatching and create some really interesting textural background like that. Something that contrasts to the smoothness of the apple is quite nice. Okay, so you could go all the way around the apple like this if you wanted to. And that would get rid of your outline. So suddenly you haven't got an outline. Okay, so there's all these lovely things you can do. So never think, oh my goodness, I've made a mistake and I can't rub it out. Just turn it into something else. Okay, and again, I could put the table in. And again, I might shade, if you remember in the last video, I might shade in the opposite direction to the wall or the space here, just to create a little contrast. And I can do the same here. So if I accidentally put a really big dark line here, I would just darken down the background so that it didn't notice so much and it disappeared. Okay, so it's your turn. Go and set up an apple if you've got one. If not, you could use something like a tomato or any other rounded fruit or vegetable just to go and have a go. If you're using an orange, you've got the chance to use the stippling that we learnt last week. Do you remember the dots? So exactly the same. In the core shadow of the orange, you would use lots and lots and lots of stippling, okay? And then you would space it out as it went into the light areas. The other thing you could do with an orange is do exactly what I've done with the apple here. So you could shade it smoothly and then use stipple on top. So there's lots and lots of different ways. There's no right or wrong. It's whatever works and whatever you're comfortable with. So try out a few things, you know. Maybe try an apple, maybe try an orange just with stippling, maybe try an orange with smooth shading with stippling on top for the texture. Whatever really. So it'd be great to just see your experiments, and so I can't wait. So go and have a go, and I'll look forward to seeing your work.